finish this up since it stopped. Okay, from that night on, the lives of millions of gay men and lesbians and the attitude towards them of the larger culture in which they lived began to change rapidly. People began to appear in public as homosexuals, demanding respect. Historian Lillian Fetterman calls the riots the shot heard around the world, explaining the Stonewall Rebellion was crucial because it sounded the rally for that movement. It became an emblem of gay and lesbian power. By calling on the dramatic tactics of violent protest that was being used by other oppressed groups, the events at the Stonewall implied that homosexuality. Not sure where it left off last. I put the SD card in there finally instead of procrastinating. From that night, the lives of millions of gay men and lesbians, the attitude towards them, I believe I already finished that. The Stonewall Rebellion was crucial because it sounded the rally for the movement. It became an emblem of the gay and lesbian power by calling on the dramatic tactic of violent protests that were being used by other oppressed groups. The events at the Stonewall implied that homosexuals had as much reason to be affected as they. Let's see here. The events of the early morning of June 28, 1969 were not the first instances of gay men and lesbians fighting back against police in New York City and elsewhere. Not only had the Machen Society been active in major cities such as Los Angeles and Chicago, but similarly marginalized people started the riot in Captain's Cafeteria in 1966, and another riot responded to raid on Los Angeles Black Cat Tavern in 1967. However, several circumstances were in place that made the Stonewall riots memorable. The location of the raid was a factor. It was across the street from the Village Voice offices, and narrow, crooked streets gave the rioters advantage over the police. Many of the participants and residents of the Greenwich Village was involved in political organizations that were effectively able to mobilize a large and cohesive gay community. At the weeks and months after the rebellion, the most significant facet of the Stone riots, however, was the commemoration of them. I'm sorry, you guys. I work nights and I'm tired. Of them in Christopher Street Liberation Day, which grew into annual gay pride events around the world. Stonewall, officially Stonewall Equality Limited, is an LGBT rights charity of the United Kingdom founded in 1989, named after the Stonewall Inn. Because of the Stonewall riot, the Stonewall Award is an annual event the charity has held since 2006 to recognize the people who have affected the lives of British lesbian, gay, and bisexual people. Alright. So this is the last bit, you guys. I'm so sorry. Let's see here. Let's see here. It goes into that people are still fighting the battle of homophobia. The Missouri Senate passed a measure that supports characteristics as a religious freedom bill that could change the state's constitution despite Democratic objections and the 39-hour filibuster. This bill allows the protection of certain religious organizations and individuals from being penalized by the state because of their sincere religious beliefs, prior practices concerning marriage between two persons of the same sex, discriminating against homosexual patronage. Obama also referenced the Stonewall riots in a call for full equality during his second inaugural address on January 21, 2013. We the people declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal in the star that guides us still, just as it guided our forebears through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall. Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law, for it was truly created equal, then surely the love we commit to one another must be equal as well. The banner hanging from the top of the building the day after President Obama announced the national monument was a historic moment, being the first time that a president mentioned gay rights or the word gay in an inaugural address. In 2014, a marker dedicated to the Stonewall riots was included in the Legacy Walk, an outdoor public display in Chicago celebrating LGBT history and people. New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission announced it would officially consider designating Stonewall Inn as a landmark, making it the first city location to be considered based on its LGBT cultural significance alone. On June 23, 2015, the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission unanimously approved the designation of the Stonewall Inn as a city landmark, making it the first landmark honored for its role in the fight for gay rights. On June 24, 2016, President Obama announced the establishment of the Stonewall National Monument site to be administered by the National Park Service. The designation, which followed transfer to city parkland to the federal government, protects the Christopher Park and adjacent areas totaling more than 7 acres. The Stonewall Inn is within the boundaries of the monument, but remains privately owned. The National Park Foundation formed a new nonprofit organization to raise funds for ranger station and interpretive exhibits for the monument. So that was one of the first stepping stones for us to be able to gain our rights that everybody else deserves in the world, not just the United States. Each generation has their own protests, their own equal rights movement, and I believe this generation is the gay rights movement. First it was, the African American movement, so that they could marry who they please, and so they could be who they want to be, who they are, and not have to hide who they are. Didn't have to be enslaved anymore, didn't have to have issues. But like I said before, equality is not just gay rights, it's everybody. The immigrants, everybody. And I know a lot of people are really getting on about the immigrants. Well, we're immigrants too. We didn't just come here and born here. I mean, yeah, this generation is, but when Christopher Columbus and everybody came, they literally stole the land from the Native Americans. It was not just, they didn't just come over here and take the test. And I don't know if anybody ever took the test, but that test is hard, by the way. And it's expensive to become a citizen. But, they didn't just come across and take that test and then become citizens. No, they took the land, fooled the poor Native Americans, raped and pillaged. None of us can say that we are legal immigrants. In some way or another, unless you came after the Pilgrims and you actually took the test and sat there and passed it, then you're not. Also, those that are homophobic and against gay rights, we're not going anywhere. We've already fought way too hard to become who we are since the 60s. So, we're not going anywhere. We're staying. And we're just going to get more rights. And one day, I have a dream that we will not be considered something different. It'll be like an African American woman with a white man. It will be no different. We will not be looked differently. We will be treated as nothing different. We won't have a problem with being on TV. We won't have a problem with holding hands down the street. There will be nothing different than as if we were just normal couples. And that's the way it should be, because that's what we are. We fight, we divorce, we We have children. We're all just like you. You know, it doesn't make us any different. And as for the Bible verse you guys all talk about, that was in the Old Testament. When Jesus came down, supposedly, which I don't even believe in the Bible anyways, it's all a fictional character book. But in the Bible, when God had Jesus, he said the Old Testament is now in void. That one verse that you have saying not to lie with man as if you were for woman is in the Old Testament. Jesus never mentions how it's a sin to be with the same sex when he was on the planet. You would think with all the other sins that he speaks about, and that was such a big sin, that he would go by that he would say that. But then you guys all like, oh, this is a sin. Well, do you guys really read the Bible? Because there's a lot more sins that you still follow that are in the same realm as this one. But those ones are okay to not follow. And, but heaven forbid we fall in love and not pretend we're something we're not, just to make you guys feel comfortable. It was all made up by the Christian and by the Catholic Church anyways. The Bible has been torn apart and misconstrued so many times, we don't even know the true words that were written by those ancient people. So don't go... I already got dislikes on the Pride Parade, for God's sakes. Get over it. We're here, and we're here to stay, and we're gay and proud. And it's not gonna happen. Like, we're not going anywhere. So, get used to it. I mean, yeah, it's great to see you guys with straight pride, but also remember, we had to fight really hard where we're at now. Every day, we have to fight hard. As a straight person, you can walk down the street and not be called names. How would you like to be called names as you walk down the street? You dyke. Like, do you want to be called that? Because it's not fun. I want to be able to walk down the street with my wife or girlfriend and not have to worry about being called some dyke or looked bad upon. Trust me, I was with the opposite sex. You don't get nearly as many bad comments and looks as you do when you're with the opposite sex as you do with the same sex. That's why we have pride. Yes, I understand you guys want straight pride, but do you really need it? Do you need to, prove to people every day that it's okay to be who you are? I can understand Hispanic pride. I can understand Asian pride. I can understand African American pride. But straight pride in general, I don't see any white man walking down the street who's straight with a white wife getting in any trouble. But that's just my opinion. Which isn't worth much, but it's my opinion. I know this series was long, but it was important that people understood what happened. It is a big deal for us and the LGBTQ plus community, because it was a stepping stone for what we have today, for pride. I'm not sure what research I'm going to do next. Hopefully something a little bit more cheerful, maybe. I don't know, I'm kind of into dark stuff, so we'll see. Thank you guys for watching, the few that have. Maybe someday I'll get more people, but anyway, thanks.